Okay, thanks, Sanja. Well, sorry, you made me laugh now. Welcome, everyone, to our Tax Changes 2021. The question is, have taxes really gone down? The answer is taxes have, but contributions have gone up. We've got Sanja here from Realni Brojevi, Real Numbers, to share more with us today. So without further ado, I'll pass to Sanja. And if you have any other questions, then feel free to put them in the chat at the end. Thank you, Sanja.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We will try to keep it short so you can understand the basics. I will not go over everything. I put in the presentation what I thought would be interesting to you. So Michael told me that most of you are interested in opening paušalni obrt. That's basically trade where you pay your taxes in lump sums every 3 months. And some of you are thinking about a company, meaning DO. So basically, there are a few changes regarding your payments. The first one is regarding the government contributions in 2021. So here you can see for paušalni, which I call flat rate tax sole trader, your contributions, which you pay monthly, have gone up. So monthly you pay 1,340 kunas. And you pay them now in a higher amount than you did last year. I will say how much the difference is on the next slide. If you are a sole trader, meaning just standard obrt, which I understand most of you are not interested in, but I will mention that if you are a sole trader, you will basically be paying as an owner the same as you are paying if you have a JDO or DO, meaning a company. So your monthly contributions, your minimum monthly contributions are 2,178 kunas a month. Now, so the government contributions have gone up. On the other hand, the taxes, income taxes and profit taxes have gone down. So basically, the way you pay your taxes, income taxes, if you are a sole trader, which pays paušalno, meaning in some lumps, you're paying depending on your tax brackets. I will say more about this on the next slide. If you are just standard obrt, you are paying depending on your actual income, meaning on the difference between your revenue and your business costs. And if you have a company, again, you are paying your taxes. You have different kind of taxes in a company. You have profit tax, meaning you're paying taxes on your profit at the end of the year. And you have income tax if you have a salary, meaning you have a worker. And not just always, you're paying those income taxes only if that salary is higher than a certain amount. I will mention that on the next slide as well. And then I just put here as well something called government chamber. You have different kinds, depending on whether or not you have obrt or a company. For obrt, you are paying 76 kunas a month. And if you are paying for a company, you are paying 42 kunas a month. Now, the new thing from this year is that if you have a newly opened obrt, you will not be paying this 76, meaning the Chamber of Trade, for the 2 years since opening your obrt. So you are not paying this for the first 2 years, and then after that you start paying. For a company, I'm afraid you're just not paying for the first year, and then after the first year you start paying 42 kunas a month. Now, more specifically about paušalni obrt. So I already mentioned there are changes in the tax, in the government contributions, and the Chamber of Trade, which I already said you are not paying for the first 2 years. So these are the tax brackets for paušalni obrt. So depending on how much annually you earn, you are paying your taxes proportionally to that. So for example, if you take a look at the second column, you have annual tax for 2020, for example, for split. It's the reason why I put split, because you not only pay tax, income tax, you pay city tax. So every city has a different percentage of city tax. So for example, for Split, which is 15%, your annual obligation for tax in 2020 was for the first tax bracket 1,759 kunas, and this year is lower. So in 2021 you are paying, as you see here in the last column, 293 kunas less. So you're basically paying less tax now than you did in the last year. Here you have for each bracket how much has your taxes, how much have they decreased. So for example, for the last tax bracket, you see that you have to pay 1,000 kuna less. This is for the year in tax obligation. And also the reason why this has happened is because the income tax has decreased from 12% to 10%. This will also be for worker salary. The income tax has also decreased for them, later about that. So the government contributions have gone up. That's what I already mentioned. So for the total in 2020, you paid 15,315 or 16 kunas. That's your government contributions for the whole year in the 2020. In 2021, you paid more. You are going to pay more for the whole year. It adds up to 16,085 kunas, which is the difference for the whole year, about 769 kunas. So we can say that when we look combined and contributions and taxes, that basically depending on your tax bracket, your total obligation toward the government could have decreased or gone up, depending on your tax bracket. I have to mention that these government contributions basically go up with each year. Regarding the taxes, they either stay the same and a lot of times they go down, but the government contributions have a tendency to always go up with each year. When in companies, meaning there are also differences now compared to 2020. So there is a change in profit tax, meaning it has decreased from 12% to 10%. There is also a change in income tax. As I already mentioned, you pay income tax on your workers' salaries. It has gone down from 24% to 20%. There is a change in minimal worker salary, as it always is at the beginning of each year, and also the change in minimal director salary. So first, profit tax. So if you're earning, so if your company earns up to 7.5 million kunas per year, your income tax from now on is 10%. So this 10% will be calculated at the end of 2021 and paid for the government. Also, this has gone down for dividends you're paying yourself as the owner of the company. The income tax is tax paid on worker salary. You may have heard from Michael so far that there is something called obrt, meaning the non-taxable part of your income. Meaning if your income is below 4,000 kunas, you're not paying any taxes on your salary. But if it's above 4,000 kunas, you are. Now, this 4,000 kunas is the main non-taxable amount. It can go up depending on number of your children and some other things. But the main one is 4,000. So say your income is 5,000. That means you're only paying income tax on the difference between those 5,000 and 4,000, meaning only on 1,000 kunas. And now is 20%, and last year was 24%. Also to mention is there are tax brackets for this as well. So if you are earning up to 30,000 kunas a month of income, your tax bracket is 20%. And if you are earning higher than that, which few people obviously do, then it's 30% of income tax. So what does this mean for a worker, for example, who is getting paid a worker salary? So for example, in this case, you can see that somebody who is getting 5,600 kunas of income and has obviously the main non-taxable part of the income, he's paying about, you can see, so last year he was paying 384 kunas and now he's paying 320 kunas. So some difference is there. You can see here on the last netto part, how much does he get now compared to last year. So it's not much now because the salary is not that high, but you can see this difference more when there is a higher salary bracket, let's say. So more about work and salaries and those non-taxable incomes. Custom in Croatia is that sometimes employers negotiate their salaries with workers based on how much they are getting paid net and not gross. So based on their net income. Reason why employers do this is because there are some non-taxable incomes that workers can get. And the employers can calculate this as part of a salary and then pay less contributions and less taxes as a company. For example, a very frequent way of doing this is with bonuses and food, money for food. So for example, I have here mentioned that if you decide to negotiate 5,000 kuna salary netto with your worker and you incorporate bonus and food about 832 kunas a month into the salary, you can decrease as a company your total government and tax contributions up to 741. This is just one example. So bonus and food is the most frequent ways of incorporating tax deductible income into the worker salary. You can pay for food up to 5,000 kunas annually. It doesn't have to be each month. You can pay it in one go or two goes or however you want. A lot of times people do this, companies do this, basically with each salary. So basically they do it 5,000 divided by 12 for the whole year. So food 5,000. I mentioned here 12,000. There's also that option. 5,000 you can basically pay up to your worker with his salary without any documentation of how he spends this money. But you have an option of basically paying him 12,000 kunas, but it has to be documented. Meaning when he goes to the store and buys food, he has to give you a receipt. You have to pay attention to all the receipts. You have to make like an Excel sheet with all the food he bought. It's a bigger administrative burden, and people don't usually choose this option, even though it's a much higher, obviously, amount, but you have to, there are a lot of restrictions. So people usually just say, okay, I will pay 5,000 and then he can spend it how he wants. Bonus for work is up to 5,000 kunas annually as well. Then you have annual reward, meaning bonus for Christmas, Easter, annual leave. It's up to 3,000 kunas a year. Then you have other things. There are many things. These are the most common ones. For example, additional healthcare fund and pension fund as well, up to 2,500 kunas annually. You can basically pay kindergarten costs for your worker, the actual cost of the kindergarten, the apartment cost, you can pay that as well. So all of these things can be incorporated as part of a salary. So basically, instead of you paying him for the kindergarten cost and then he paying the kindergarten, you can directly pay the kindergarten as a company, and then it's non-taxable for you, for example. There are many others. I think I have a list somewhere I can give to Michael. He can upload it, where you can give your employees different kind of gifts over the year, so you can do that instead of this, taxable income. So this is what I mentioned before, this part where you don't pay up to 741 kunas if you incorporate bonus and food into the salary. So this is basically the calculation. So here you see your worker gets 5,000 in this calculation and one on the right. But your total cost as a company for the first part is, without these bonuses, is 7,716. And when you do incorporate, then your total cost is 6,974. So less money, yeah? So it's less of a cost for you as a company. I just want to mention something about contributions and hiring people who are under 30 years of age. If you hire a person who is under 30, you don't have to pay healthcare costs for them, which is a standard part of a salary, for the next 5 years of his employment. So that's something that people use a lot. And also, if you hire a person with no experience in the job market, you don't have to pay, regardless of his age, you don't have to pay a healthcare cost for the first year of his employment. So you can basically combine those two. Let's say you hire somebody who doesn't have a job, who hasn't been employed before, ever. You can choose to not pay the healthcare cost for the first year. And then after that, also use those 5 years of him being under 30. So 6 years you can have that option of not paying healthcare costs, for example. Okay, so I mentioned that the contributions have gone up. This is the difference in the last column. For example, the minimal director's salary. I put here EU and also third country. As you probably seen before, when you are opening your own company as a person from a third country, the costs are so much higher than if you are EU. I will not be focusing on that at the moment. I will be just focusing mostly on the EU people, because here you can see the difference. Minimal director salary EU is total cost 6,619 compared to third country, which is 15,000. And also there are other restrictions with employing 3 Croatians and 200,000 kunas, which you have to invest in the company. So as you can see, there's a big difference. But all of this you should discuss with the lawyer to see what your options are regarding the status, your status about opening a company in Croatia. One thing I have to mention, when you open a company in Croatia, you are liable to pay contributions, whether or not you're working in that company. And this is also for Croatians as well as EU or third country people. So let's say you are an EU person who wants to open a company in Croatia. You do everything, you open it. You are not employed at the moment, you just opened it. For example, this is something people do when they open a company in Croatia in order to build a house and then rent it. So if you are from EU country which has a contract with Croatia, which most EU countries do, meaning if they are paying their contributions in their own country, they don't have to do it in Croatia. So this is the same as it is for Croatian people when they open a company, but they are not employed there. They would be liable for paying contributions if they are not employed somewhere else. That's the same basic point. If you are EU and paying it in your country, you are working and paying contributions in your country, you have to give proof to Croatian government that you are doing so, and then you don't have to pay it in your own company here. Otherwise, you will have to pay it. And the amount that is around 3,500 a month, and you are basically not paying yourself a salary, you are still liable for contributions unless you're paying them in your own country and you give Croatian government the proof that you are paying them in your own country. So let's just see about when you do become a worker in your own company, what kind of salary do you have to pay yourself? So minimal direct salary, if you're an EU person, is in 2021, total cost is 6,952 compared to 2020 when it was 6,619. So there's a difference in contributions and taxes, which is about 332 kunas. The minimal director salary from a third country citizen is the difference is around 300, but obviously you see the total cost of a monthly salary is much higher than it is for an EU person. Now, the minimal worker salary, so you're basically employing a Croatian and you have to pay them a minimal salary. Minimal salaries always go up from year to year. In 2020, it was total cost 4,732, and now is up to 4,951. Here in brackets, I put the contributions, so you can see how the contributions have gone up as well. Under each of these are contributions and taxes, so just you can see the comparison as well for those. And this minimal worker salary is for when Croatians employ and EU people employ. When we are talking about third country citizens who open a company in Croatia, even this salary for Croatians generally has to be higher. So everything that works for EU people and Croatian people is different from third country people. That's why I'm saying, if you are thinking about opening as a third country person, please advise with your lawyer about what exactly do you need to do. If this is I can't even speak, if this is too high of a cost for you, if you can't manage these costs, because you know, if you do open without a proper advisor, you can be in a lot of trouble. So directors, as already mentioned, you can be a director who is not employed, meaning you open a company and you are the only person who has opened this company. Therefore, you are by default a member of the board, and by that you're obliged to pay contributions. I already mentioned this. So in 2021, you have to pay, if you're not employed and just a member of the board, you have to pay 3,351 kunas. This has gone up in amount of 160 kunas. Okay, so what I put here is not basically the difference between the last year. Michael is itching to do something. Michael, do you want to say something?
I'm not going to sing a song about VAT.
Okay, that was enough. Thank you. That was very good. Basically, I just want to mention it again because it's very important for companies to understand what system. You don't have to be in the VAT system when you open a company. So by law, you're obliged to engage with this system when you have over 300,000 kunas of revenue. Before then, you don't have to. But just because you're not in the VAT system doesn't mean you're not liable for some VAT costs. For example, you are a new company and you're not in the VAT system. However, you bought some Facebook ads. Facebook is not in Croatia, is not a Croatian company, and they will invoice you an invoice which has a certain little remark on the end of this invoice. Basically saying customer to account for any VAT arising on this supply in accordance with some article. Basically, this means that when you pay specifically services from outside of Croatia, you are liable to pay VAT on those services in Croatia. So what the Facebook does is basically reverse charge, meaning you're not going to be paying VAT to them, but you're going to be paying VAT to Croatian government. So in order to do this, you need to, if you want to do it yourself, you need a person to explain how to do this. So when you buy Facebook ads, calculate 25% of that amount, and that is the actual cost of your Facebook ad. So if you're paying 100 kunas for your Facebook ad, the total cost is actually 125 kunas, because those 25 kunas you have to calculate yourself and pay to the Croatian government. So for example, if you paid Facebook in July, the next month you have to pay the Croatian government 25% of that amount. So that is for services. It's you have to by law pay it in the country of the firm, company, whatever, obrt, who is using those services. When it comes to goods, when you're buying goods from outside of Croatia, specifically from, for example, EU, you have a choice. So it's different between services and goods. With services, you don't have an option. You have to pay in Croatia. For goods, you have a choice until you basically import in the amount of 77,000 kunas. If you import goods less in the worth less than that amount, you can pay somebody else's VAT. If you are importing from Hungary, you can pay their own VAT, and then you don't have to pay it in Croatia. But after you go over that amount, 77,000 kunas a year, then you have to pay it in Croatia. And obviously, if you are importing from the third countries, it has to go through customs, and then you pay that as well as import VAT. We will probably do a workshop how to pay this VAT, this Facebook VAT and such, because you really need to do this and not disregard it when you open a new company. This is specifically for paušalni obrt, because when people open paušalni obrt, they hear you don't need an accountant, which is true, but a lot of them do make trade and services with outside of Croatian, outside of Croatia, so they are not familiar with this kind of laws, so they need to be educated on it. In regards to fiscalization, also, I think we will do a separate workshop on fiscalization. Basically means if you are dealing with cash, if you are charging your services or goods with cash, you need to have this fiscalization. Fiscalization is very simple. People are very confused by it, but it's not confusing at all. It basically just means that you have to make invoices in a specific software. This software has an ability to communicate with our tax administration office. So every time you invoice somebody in this software, this invoice is immediately visible to our tax admin offices. That's basically it. And this invoice has some codes on it, and that registers then as a cash invoice. But only thing you have to do is go through some steps, get a certificate from FINA, get fiskalna blagajna, which is that software from some supplier from the market, and just do fiscalization for your cash transactions. The difference in 2021 from 2020 is that every cash invoice let's say, now has to also have a QR code on it. That's the difference. Self-service devices also have to be fiscalized. For example, your coffee machines. And within 19 days of this year, the amended amount of cash maximum will be prescribed by our government. That basically means that the cash maximum means how much money can you keep in your cash register before you have to put it in the bank. So if you are dealing only with cash and you are charging with cash, at some point you will have this amount of cash with you on you, yeah? And then you will have to put it in a bank. So the cash maximum will be prescribed. So far for micro subjects, it has been up to 10,000 kunas a day, for example. So if you are under 10,000 kunas in your cash register, you don't have to run to the bank to put it on the bank, but otherwise you should if you go over that amount. And just to mention Brexit in the end, obviously you know that with the 1st January of 2021, UK is considered the third country. But Michael will discuss more on this in regards to people who are already working here, I'm sure, in some workshops with them. But in terms of dealing with VAT and things like that, you are basically dealing with UK as a third, when you are buying services or importing goods. They are basically from now on a third country. And has anyone keep track of how many times have I said basically? And that
73.
is all from me.
Thank you very much, Sanja. We'll go to questions now. And if you're watching this afterwards, then feel free to put questions below and we'll also answer them then.